Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today's guest is Mike Strodman with Blue Skies Equity, and he has been investing in real estate for 16 years. So this is someone with a lot of experience, so I'm sure he will provide a lot of value today. Mike, anything else you want to add to your brief intro?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Uh, yeah, like you said, I've been investing for 16 years. Started out like everybody, just buying buying a property, fixing it up, renting it out, saving up enough money to buy another one,
Hmm.
and it worked really well. And we did it, starting in 2009. So, during the recession, we were able to buy everything at 50 cents on the dollar. Sometimes even much better than that.
Yep.
But yeah, we just did the slow, steady growth. And yeah, I became interested in real estate before all that. Um, Watching my friends and family buy real estate, operate real estate. So, I went to school to be a city planner. I got a college degree, went and got my master's, and really enjoyed being a city planner. But as I've said before, you're on the wrong side of the table. I wanted to be the individual providing building plans, building real estate, and
Hmm.
not the one approving it. But I really enjoyed seeing that aspect of things. So that
Yep.
now we've subdivided property, we've done ground up construction, and that skill set of knowing what the other side of the table is looking for has helped me out to streamline that process along the way.
Yep. Okay, well, coincidentally, you answered part of my first question, which is, which was going to be how you got into real estate or what inspired you. But let me ask you second part of that question, which was is there anything that made you did you have any kind of like aha moment or like where like a light bulb went off in your head that kind of made you maybe focus a little bit on multifamily specifically?
Yeah, the real aha moment for me was after we had uh, just a handful of properties, and all of a sudden to watch your net worth grow so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you've got that excess cash flow coming in every month, and you see your bank account rising quickly, and that giving us that nest egg to buy the next one. Along with that, watching the property being paid down, not by me. When we buy a house, we're the ones making that payment from the money we earn, but
Yep.
yet I have my principal being paid down by somebody else. And that was the aha, like, wow, this can be a game changer.
Yep. Okay. All right. And then do you mind walking us through your first multifamily deal? So, don't hold anything back, share the good, the bad, the ugly. I want to hear everything. Any seminars? Okay, great. I love those. Sorry. But yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, our first one, uh, it's a property in Colorado. Um, and, it was neat being able to find people in that market and partner with them, and meeting them through the same network that we're in together,
Hmm.
and being able to break bread with them, talk with them, see how they like to operate, how they operate, and what real estate they already have and knowledge that they already have. We got the property under contract. Everything was good there. We ended up getting two properties under contract. I
Okay.
flew out and took a look, and the first property was pretty beaten up. It needed a lot of work. And it's one of those deals where, yeah, we ended up having a lot of money. Not a lot, but it was a significant amount of money in surveys, inspection costs,
Hmm.
etc., and then to walk away from it. But that's not always a bad thing. I'd
Yep.
much rather walk away and have some money lost in that regard, rather than buying a deal where it's going to need way more work than you're thinking. It's not quite in the neighborhood that you thought.
Right.
So that was good to get away from. We had two under contract. We ended up closing on the other one.
Hmm.
Kind of the main lessons learned there are, we ended up getting agency debt on it. So we had to
Okay.
be at 90% occupancy. An existing property management company wasn't good. They let the occupancy slip. So we were working closely with them to get that occupancy back up over 90 so that we could
Yep.
get closed. So that really delayed our closing. By the time, we talked to our investors, and did a presentation and had our investors on board. We had all the raise that we were needing from investors
Mm-hmm.
there and ready to go. But that timeline kept on slipping back and slipping back and slipping back.
Yeah.
Um, it was great. All of our investors were more than understanding that this was something out of our control. So that
Mm-hmm.
we're grateful for that
Yeah.
to for all them to stay on board with us. But we got it closed late December that year. Had it under contract for a good 6 months, so 7 months.
Oh,
So
wow. That's a long time.
it
Yeah, but
it
you're
took
close.
time.
You're
Yeah,
close. So okay. Uh-huh.
that's right. We that's the main thing is just um, being persistent on it. But it did take some time. Another aha is, as we all know, insurance rates
Mm-hmm.
and the requirements that the lender had for us to get for insurance for that. It was very difficult to find a company that was willing to insure that property.
Okay.
Um, Mainly just because of all the nuances of the different things that we had to have, the special coverages. And it wasn't way out of the realm. It's just, it is a lot harder. There's a lot of companies that are now not insuring
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh, properties in different areas. So we ended up being able to find insurance, but when we initially thought the insurance would be about 25,000 a year, quickly realized that the closest premium we could get was 41.
Ooh,
The only
okay.
good thing that is, re-underwriting it, going, how is this going to affect our cash flow? How is this going to affect our returns to our investors? We had enough other um, areas built in,
Mm-hmm.
um, expenses built in that we wouldn't have, so that we, is able to offset that, and it wasn't a hit on any of our projected returns. But
Okay.
it's things that this is why you build cushions into it, because
Yeah.
there will be aha moments, and you want that cushion. If you don't, then it's even better yet. You're gonna have better returns for your investors. But if you if you don't build that in, it can absolutely crush your cash flow.
For sure, for sure. I definitely agree. I definitely agree that it's important to have cushions built in. And then going back to the first deal that you walked away from, right? You must have heard it many times. Sometimes the best deal is the best deal is the one that you don't do, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah. Okay. All right. So how about, so I think for a lot of people, there's like a really dramatic mindset shift after like the first deal. So how about for you? How has your mindset shifted since the first deal?
Yeah. Especially in this market that we're in right now, with higher interest rates, higher insurance premiums, um, the mindset shift is you just need to be more diligent and wait, um, and to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row, and not to just try to chase deals. You just still have to stick to the basics. Um, our interest rate's going to come down. I have no idea.
Yeah, no one knows.
I don't think anybody does. I've heard economists recently say they may go up and not go down, which
Hmm.
is interesting. So time will only tell. But what we have to do is underwrite to the market conditions that we are at today,
Yep.
and try not to pull out our crystal ball and make any assumptions, because it's times like that you can really get hurt.
Yep. Okay. And then how about like your risk tolerance? Did that shift since your first deal or not?
Yeah, no, my risk tolerance, not really. I really try to stick to the fundamentals of it.
Yep.
I'm fortunate in the stuff that I've bought that it's made sense. I've not lost money on any deal that I've purchased and operated, but I've always been very conservative. I've lost out on a lot of deals,
Yeah, I can imagine.
because of conservative, So yeah, you've got somebody else that is willing to pay more, and for me, it's just not worth that risk.
Hmm.
I don't need to have 10,000 doors. If I can, if I can have a tenth of that cash flow very well, myself and our investors will be happy.
No, we're on the same page with the conservatism. I think that, if you lose out on some deals because you're conservative, so be it, whatever. It's much better. We're on the same page. Let's just say that. Okay. And then how about your deal criteria? Do you have like a specific unit count or number of dollars you want to see at like a minimum for your deals, or Has your deal criteria evolved over time?
It has kind of evolved over time. I guess it really depends on who I'm partnering with and where that asset is located.
Hmm.
When I look at Colorado, uh, the partner that I have over there has a management company, so that works well, and they specialize in mid-size rentals. So we don't need to make sure that we hit that 100 doors or close to 100 doors, so we can have a full-time property leasing agent on site
On site. Uh-huh.
and staff. So that makes it nice. If it's smaller than that and you don't have those resources, it can be trickier because your property management costs and the associated costs can be significantly higher, definitely crushing your cash flow. And actually have a property under contract. And here's another one that's lasted longer because we just had a horrible storm come ripping through our community, 120
Uh-huh.
mile an hour winds, a lot of roofs. So so this is another project that is going to be probably a 6 month closing too. And again, just stuff being out of your control. But
Yep.
for me in my backyard, this property is located 11 miles from my home. I have properties here already where I've got bookkeeper, maintenance staff. So I've got the infrastructure here to self-manage,
Hmm.
which is huge. Again, my criteria can change, but it's really depending upon who I'm partnering with and
Right.
where that asset's located.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Hey, if you've got a real estate deal, a problem, or even just a question, we want to hear about it. Doesn't matter if it's big, small, complicated, ugly, or somewhere in between. If it's a good deal, we're absolutely interested. Period. And if you've got capital, you need to put to work in solid real estate opportunities. We've got those too. Either way, let's talk. Here's how this works. We always need more deals. We always need more capital. And we always find a way to make it happen. No games, no runaround. If we can't work together directly, we'll hand deliver you to someone who can. Okay, so let's move on to another section, tips and pitfalls. Right, so like what are your biggest lessons around finding deals?
Yeah, finding deals. Again, how well do you know your market? If
Hmm.
you're looking for properties in your backyard, get to know anybody and everybody that has property, because those connections, they will reach out to you, and sometimes you can get them bought without it going on the market,
Right, yeah.
which is huge. If you're looking for areas, larger areas, get to know the best brokerage company in town. And if you can find the most hungry individual within that organization, it's huge. They will be beating the pavement trying to find you good properties. So
Hmm.
that'd be kind of my biggest tip there. I also like to drive and look for properties, and
Yeah.
then try to figure out who that owner is. It's worked for me on a couple occasions.
Okay.
You spend a lot of time, you send a lot of letters, I make a lot of phone calls, and it's not always panned out. I have had a couple of these work out, and they were really good deals.
Hmm.
Again, being able to buy it on the market, but that does work, but it does take time and energy, and you need to be. You're probably not going to buy the first one that you make the phone call on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It takes a lot of follow up, and a lot of effort, I guess, to get that done. Okay, and then how about what about like so after you actually have the deal on the contract, after you've locked it up, after you've closed, what are your biggest lessons around, operating and executing on your underwriting plan, for example?
Yeah, with that is, you come into it with a budget. You've underwrote it, and you know what your expenses want to be, and you need to work hard to stick with that and find ways where you can keep your costs low, and try to make sure that your rent assumptions were accurate. So
Hmm.
that's a lot of upfront work. And again, market conditions can change where you can end up having, uh, you know, rent concessions come in, stuff that's out of your control due to a lot of new construction or whatever it might be, a loss of an
Yep.
industry, that can change that. But again, if you can be conservative in your numbers, and try to be very realistic on what your rent assumption of rent growth is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, rent growth was blowing up, and right now it's very soft in the majority of the markets,
Yeah.
and need to make sure you're underwriting that and not and not you know underwriting to something that maybe isn't even accurate.
Okay, okay. And then one more question here on the tips and pitfalls. So what about like exiting? I'm not sure whether you've gone full cycle or not, but I think even if you haven't, you're definitely going to be thinking about exit strategies from the beginning, right? So what are your biggest lessons around exiting deals?
Yeah, for those, again, when I have, you want to make sure that you're setting your property up well in advance. If you
Mm-hmm.
think you're going to exit in 5 years, you really want to make sure that you're hitting your assumptions in years 3 and 4,
Yep.
leading up to that 5. And, you have to maintain the property. That's the most important thing. If you're not maintaining your property, you're trying to keep it all as cash flow, and the property doesn't present well, you're going to
Mm.
possibly have a harder time selling it.
Yep.
But you also want to watch your expenses. Make sure you're contacting, the garbage service. Make sure you're watching your water bills to make sure that somebody doesn't have a leaky toilet.
Mm-hmm.
Because all those excess costs are expenses are gonna take down your purchase, the prices you're going to be able to get at the sale. So
Yep.
the lowering expenses, and that's been kind of one of the deals on the property that we have under contract is, their garbage fee, they're paying $900 a month. Through negotiations and talking with them, they are actually now working with that garbage contractor, and they were able to reduce that bill by 50%. So
Okay.
huge savings in a year to add to your NOI. And so if you can annually look at those expenses and see which ones are sneaking away from you, from contracts that you might have signed, but working with them to keep them in line, it could
Mm-hmm.
be huge. Otherwise, just keep on increasing that annual or that monthly fee. So
Yep.
on an annual. So if you can keep that stuff in check, that's a great way to position your property for an exit.
For sure, for sure. Okay, all right. So now, let's move on to the bonus round, the rapid fire round. Okay, so I'm just gonna throw questions at you and just, don't think, just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind, no matter what it is, whatever. So how about your worst tenant story?
Oh man, where do you start? Um,
Okay, well.
I'm just gonna have to say, it's gonna be non-payment of rent,
hmm
um, and then just a midnight move out.
Yeah, okay. So wow, okay. So they skipped out on you in the middle of the night. Did they damage the apartment? Did they trash the apartment, or they left it in decent shape?
It was, they did not clean,
hmm
but thankfully it was not destroyed. Now
Okay, that's not too
I would
bad,
say
not too
maybe
bad.
even,
hmm
yeah, maybe even to beat that one is I did have a death. I did have a death in one of mine, which is very sad.
Oh,
It does happen if you're in it for a long enough time.
yeah.
But that was probably the hardest thing that we had to deal with so far.
Okay. And then so we talked a little bit about, saving expenses here and there to boost NOI and boost valuations. But what is your favorite expense saving hack or advice?
Yeah, expense saving hack. I'm going to say keeping on top. The garbage bill has been the worst. That
hmm
that company continually and annually increases that, and if you don't go and get back in touch with them, you will see your garbage bill double in a
hmm
couple of years.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, keep an eye on that and keep trying to like renegotiate with them. Okay.
Absolutely.
And then so there's a ton of advice floating around in the real estate world. Some of it good, some of it bad, or whatever. Can't say good and bad, but some of it more valuable, some less valuable. What do you think is some of the most overrated advice in real estate, just from your perspective?
No, that you can be a midnight success.
hmm
That you can make fortunes doing this, and it's not going to take a lot of your time.
Yeah.
Um, if you're going to do it right, you need to be deeply involved. You have to care a lot, and it does take your time. It is not
hmm
passive. This
Yeah.
is unless you're an investor, you can be a limited partner investor. But other than that, if you're going to own and operate apartments, you need to be deeply involved, or it's going to get away from you.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Don't dabble, and it's gonna eat up a lot of your time. And yeah, yeah, I agree with that for sure. And then conversely, what about is there any advice that you think is it's perhaps it's quite great, so it's underrated?
Yeah, almost to the same token, you
Hmm.
know, uh, just that that you can become very wealthy investing in real estate
Hmm.
if you do well and do it right. There is you can do exceptionally well, and you can create generational wealth through real estate as long as you're willing to put in the reps.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's great. And so, like in our group, right, we always talk about superpowers, but I want to reframe that and call it an unfair advantage. So, what do you think is or what do you think is one of your unfair advantages?
Wow, great question. Um, I don't know if it's unfair. It's just I really love connecting with people.
Hmm.
I greatly enjoy meeting people, understanding what they do, seeing what their pain points are, how I can help them out, and what I can do to assist them. And in doing that, they've helped me out in so many different ways too. So I think it's the networking and just
Hmm.
always wanting to meet new people and see where they're at and what they're doing.
Yeah, okay. That's definitely very, very valuable, and it's a good advantage for sure. And then so like I don't really like to use the word regret, but if you could go back in time to any time period, whatever, is there anything that you would do differently? Or rather, what is one thing that you would do differently if you could go back?
Yeah, it would have been early on, starting out. Um, and when I said we'd buy a property, save for the next one, buy another one.
Hmm.
My biggest regret is not knowing how to utilize other people's money, bringing
Hmm.
in investors. Um, if we would have done that, especially when we were buying everything at such a discount, uh, we would have had a lot more properties under contract. And yeah, looking at the prices all coming back and actually doubling since then,
Yep.
my balance sheet would look a lot differently. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, and then what is your best advice for new investors? And let me break this into two sections. One is new investors who want to be active, so maybe possibly potential GPs, whatever else. And the second half is for new investors who they don't want to get involved in anything. They just want to they want to be involved passively. So let's look at the active ones first. What's your best advice for them?
My best advice there is partner with somebody that can satisfy your weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
You this is a team sport.
Yep.
You cannot do this alone. So know what you're good at and continue to hone those skills. Take what you're not so good at or do not like doing, and find someone that likes to do that and wants to do that and is able to help you out there. The other
Mm-hmm.
thing is just don't just jump into properties.
Yep.
That is the biggest thing. Don't fall in love with the property. Fall in love with the numbers. If the numbers don't make sense, walk away.
Okay.
In regards to investors, my biggest advice there too is get you need to understand the basics of real estate. You
Mhm.
don't need to know everything, and that's one thing that we really focus on. We send out newsletters, we send out educational content, talking about what is a rent roll, um, how do you finance properties, what is a limited partner,
Mhm.
what is a general partner, and what are their roles. So get educated, make sure you know the basics of it. You don't need to know the in-depths of the underwriting, don't need to know the in-depths of the market, but get to know the basics very, very well. If you know someone that you are thinking about investing with, get to know them.
Mhm.
Who are they? What do they stand for? Their morals and ethics, and get to know them, because there are market conditions that can make that change of path as to how it all turns out.
Yeah.
Um, but if you've got somebody that knows what they're doing, and has done this before, the chances of success are a lot better.
Be higher. Yeah. Okay. And then this is one question I didn't ask before, but I'll ask it now since you mentioned, like you like, meeting people and talking and networking and so on. So what do you think is like what do you think is one of like the most effective networking strategies? Like maybe to get to know investors, get to know maybe potential partners, talking to brokers, whatever, just networking in general. What do you think is like one of the most effective ways to do it?
Yeah, being in and around and about people. You
Hmm.
know, if it's a real estate conference, go to them, shake hands with them, talk with them. If you have local meetups, local real estate meetups, or landlord associations, whatever it might be, if it's community events, just getting people to know you. The best way to do that is face to face.
Yep.
And if you can be out and about and around those activities, it definitely is a great way to get to know more people, network with more people, and it just expands your network so much more.
Okay, okay. And then so is there anything that I didn't ask, but you think that maybe you think someone who's listening to this interview they would have liked me to ask, or is there any are there any questions that you think I should have asked?
Yeah, no, I greatly appreciate you reaching out. This has been wonderful. You had great questions, and I think you knocked it out of the park.
Okay, okay. And then if people want to get in touch with you or they want to find out more or maybe like okay, number one, how do they get in touch with you? Number two, do you have any projects that you're working on that you want to share that you're excited about or what?
Yeah, so the best way to reach out to me is you can Google Blue Skies Equity. There's a couple different ones out there. Mine is the SKIES Equity. Or otherwise, you can shoot me an email at mike@blueskiesequity.com. And yeah, we are constantly looking at real estate. We are underwriting a lot of deals to try to find a couple to even throw an LOI on.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, I've already got all the partners involved and set up for this latest acquisition that we have coming down right now. But yeah, we are constantly looking. So I'm excited to get this property closed, get all the parts and pieces in place, get it stabilized, and then definitely hit the pavement looking for more assets.
Yeah, okay, great. Well, I'll put all that information, all your contact information at the start and the end of the video as well. And then, if possible, I would really like to invite you back, like maybe 6 months or 12 months later to kind of see, how your progression is going. Because I don't like only like to have like a static picture. I want to see like a kind of like a timeline. Okay, so today Mike is doing this, and 6 months later he's doing that, and maybe see your growth over time. Yeah, but anyway,
Yeah,
thank you so much, Mike, for coming on the podcast today. I know you're busy, so I really appreciate your time very much, and I think you've provided a lot of value. So yeah, really, really thank you very much, and I hope it was fun. But yeah, thank you.
it was wonderful. I appreciate it, and thank you very much. I look forward
Okay.
to hearing about all your success too.
Okay, great, great, great.